good people. And then you might come across a couple bad apples, but it's important to ask the right questions and then ask questions that you personally want to know as well. And that's going to also help you grow faster. But you guys can check me out, Dontez Akram on YouTube. You can check me out on Instagram and TikTok _therealtez, and Dontez Akram on Twitter as well. Facebook, Dontez Akram. But yeah, that's pretty much where you guys can check me out. I constantly drop free game. I do free master classes every Thursday. So if you guys want to check in there, go click the link in my bio on Instagram and get some information. So,
all right, y'all, what's the deal, y'all? It's the Interview Podcast. I'm here with the real Tez. That's what y'all might know him as, Dontez Akram.
Yep.
Cleveland native.
Yes, sir.
Now in Atlanta. Detroit to Cleveland. Neighbors for real. So we already got that Midwest connection going. But today we're going to talk about his entrepreneurship journey and basically tips for the youth. Like, I really want to give a lot of people that can be in your position all the advice they need. Once again, this is very young and very, very, very intelligent, very smart. And I just want to say I commend you for sure for
Appreciate that.
all the stuff you're doing, because it's definitely a lot of people like myself that's paying attention and
it's love,
taking
bro.
it in, definitely. But we can get straight into it. I know we talked a little bit before, like how your entrepreneur journey started, but you can just get right into it, like the moment it was like that click where you first started.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's your boy, the real Tez, aka Dontez Akram. For me, when I first got into entrepreneurship, it was by accident. Like, I had a kid at 18. I graduated high school with a 2.6 GPA. So, you know, when I found out I was having a kid, I was about to graduate. So it was more so like a decision, like you either go and you go take this debt and go get a degree, or you stay and be a father and figure shit out. So for me personally, you know, I think I accidentally rolled into it because I had a person I was responsible for, an actual human. And, you know, immediately I got into flipping do-rags. So I used to live in Egypt from 8 to 12. So I learned how to speak Arabic while I was there. And, you know, most beauty supply stores, gas stations and things like that, they're owned by a lot of Arabic people. So there was one in particular that was a few minutes away from my house that I was able to build a relationship with. And he allowed me to actually start buying my do-rags in bulk there. And what I was doing was basically buying a whole bunch of them, going on my Instagram, posting all of them, telling people I can deliver it to them. And basically, I was buying them for like $3 each, and I was selling it to people for $5, but I was actually doing a delivery fee. So instead of people going to the beauty supply store, I'm bringing it to you now. And it was a concept that, you know, it was kind of like Uber before Uber ever came out, Uber Eats and shit. Like, I didn't really know nothing about it. I was just like, I need to get money. So I did that for like 3 months. We made a couple $1,000s, and then I started realizing like I wanted to be a real business owner, because working at a factory wasn't working for me. You know what I'm saying? Working at Abercrombie & Fitch, you know what I'm saying? Still trying to figure things out. That stuff just wasn't working for me. So that's when I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take this serious. So I turned all my like side hustle stuff into online businesses. And that's when I created my first business, Snaggerag. And shortly after we hit our first 6 figures. And after that, we just kind of been scaling. And then I eventually went into building a clothing brand. And as I was building these, One Love, I'm rocking right now. But as I was building these, I started realizing that there was a demand of young people who were actually looking at me and like, yo, how can I do what you just did? Like, what's not clicking for me that's clicking for you? So for me, I was just like, I wasn't really a big course person back then. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna get the game out for free. So as I was giving the game out, I was telling stories through my social media, and people were locking in with me. So there's people who've been locked in with me for the past 4 years that know the growth from where I was and to where I am right now. And I just started giving game out, you know, and it got to the point where we was going viral a couple times. And I was like, you know, the amount of people who were reaching out to me, although it really was everything to me to actually help people, it was just too many people. And I didn't want to help. I didn't want to make people feel like I wasn't servicing them or trying to help
Especially
them.
one by one.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially with DMs, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to go through each and every DM. So for me, I was like, you know what? It is impossible. And I didn't really know nothing about hiring people just yet. So we can talk about that later too. But for me, that's when I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a little $25 course. So the person who's in college, they can afford it. The person who's in high school, they can afford it. And a grown person who's trying to get their stuff together, they can afford it. And with that one course, I think we did like 40, 50,000 in our first like 7, 8 months with that course. And what I realized is that every time I made a course or I created new curriculum for people to learn from, I got a bunch of testimonials that helped me bridge my way into building something else, another curriculum.
Another door.
Exactly. So what I did was I took all the problems that people were having. So the next problem was I can't build a Shopify store. I don't know what that looks like. So I literally made a course on me building a Shopify store step by step so they can follow my exact move. So, we did that. That was a $50 course. So everything at that time was less than $100. So I was like, I'm going to make this cost efficient, make sure I help as many people as possible. And, with that course, we hit 6 figures with that course alone. And then I was like, all right, what's next? People couldn't get people to their website. So I'm like, all right, well, I got an ad strategy. So then that's when I created the scenario method where I basically broke up my strategy of how I ran ads on Instagram and Facebook that allowed us to go viral so many times and get a lot of sales. Black Friday, do $20,000, $30,000 in a day. So
Cyber Monday.
Exactly. So I broke down all of the numbers. I showed people the inside of my accounts, exactly what I was running, exactly where I was targeting and things like that. And then that ended up becoming a hit. It went viral on Twitter a couple times. And, I've never really seen curriculums go viral. So for me to be 19, 20, and I'm creating something that's impacting people was life-changing for me. So that was pretty much a quick rundown of how I got into entrepreneurship and helping people.
Hope y'all got all that. I know they probably sitting there like,
dang, guy.
But no, just pick up, I like to say pick up like a nugget. You might say all this, but it's going to be that one nugget that people pick up, that one golden nugget. That's what they said. But,
absolutely.
You spoke about, you said speaking Arabic, and I saw a clip on Instagram the other day, and it was like, if you learn how to speak Arabic, and you go over there, I promise you will be rich or something like. I don't know why they said that, though.
I don't necessarily think it's just the language. I think if you take it upon yourself to learn a different language, you have a different insight on life and how other countries and people actually maneuver through life, because we're only accustomed to this little box that we have, you know what I'm saying? And that was the reason I'm intelligent or the way I am. Obviously some of it is God-given, but also because I grew up in certain environments that a lot of people had never seen. So when I grew up in Egypt, I seen real poverty. There was no Section 8, even though I had Section 8. So it was there was 2 different poors at that time. And when you're in a third world country where the government doesn't care, the president, there's no president, there's the systems, everything's different. You know what I'm saying? You start to appreciate everything that you have because, my mom used to, I used to eat food and, she used to cook. And then whenever I leave food on the plate, she'd be like, how many kids downstairs would kill to have this food right now?
Finish your plate.
Exactly. So that always has been my mentality and my attitude is stay grateful for everything that I have, because I know for a fact there's a kid out there in Egypt. The kids I was playing with, they didn't have shoes. So we was outside. When they didn't have shoes, I took my shoes off because that was the way to, make them feel like I can actually relate to them. And I was different. So, for me, I just have a different insight on life and how I move and how I just try to think for real.
Definitely. When you don't finish that food, you got to turn it over. When you throw it away in the trash can, you got to have it face down, then flip it back over so it looked like you ate it all. Sometimes my mom used to, dig through the trash oh, I see food. I'm like, oh my God.
You feel me? But no, it's a good reason that they're doing that, you know what I mean? Because there's so many people in the world that really would wish that they had that. But, when you're young, you don't really understand. But it's a core concept that every young person should know, for sure.
Okay. Well, you can give them a little bit of background on your 3 businesses now and what makes them so distinct from all the other online businesses.
Absolutely. So the first business I had was Snag-a-Rag. That was me selling bonnets, do-rags, headbands. That was the first business. Second business was One Love, which y'all see me rocking right now, my clothing brand. My daughter, who's 5 years old, Nani, she actually owns 50% of this brand as well. So for me,
I saw that.
Yeah, for me, giving her ownership early is huge. I also have another business called the Akram Foundation. So for me, I was huge on my last name. I grew up around a lot of uncles and stuff like that. So, they always taught me to you stand on a code, you know what I mean? And your last name is everything. And when you represent, yourself, you're representing us as a whole. So definitely. The Akron Foundation is a business that I started to educate people and to also acquire assets under that business that can be owned by our last name. So right now, this year, we're working on buying an apartment building. And when we get the apartment building, on the front of the apartment building,
complex.
It's going to say Akram Realties. So that's going to be my thing and my way of showing the world that, we here to stay.
Trump Towers.
Exactly. Same exact thing. So just ownership. I got a couple other businesses. I have one called Snag-a-Home where we just kind of buy and flip properties. We haven't really done too much with that in the last couple of years just because I've been scaling these other 3. And then my last business is Limitless Investment. So that's
a big one.
That's a huge one. That one I really created. It's a Discord community. So it's like a server. I have close to 10,000 people in there. I think we're like 25 people away from it last time I looked. But we're about 25 people away from 10,000. And basically what I did was I created a server in a community where people who are like us, who look like us, move like us, and are minorities, they're able to get assistance and learn from somebody else who's in a different space than them. And what I've realized is that when you grow up in certain environments, it's hard for you to be around people who think like you. So you may want to get out of it, but you got 5 dummies that's around you that's keeping you back from where you're trying to get to. So I created a Discord community where virtually you can escape your current environment, come in here and learn every single day of the week. We have classes, we send out sports bets, we got stocks, we do econ classes, clothing brand classes. So it's like I've created something that can actually change lives, and that's what we're doing every day. You know, I got people who are working at restaurants making $5-6 an hour, now making 5 figures a month. And it's just like, it's access to information. What's around you right now is the reason that you are the way you are. Your environment plays a part in who you become. So I think that if people can get in the mindset of just like, yo, let me change my environment, let me change what I'm listening to, especially what you're consuming. You know, a lot of people are just following and watching Shade Room and what's going on with this person, and oh, little baby got this going on. Like, for me, it's just like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, that has nothing to do with me. You know, I got respect for everybody in the world until you disrespect me, but it's like, that has nothing to do with me. And whatever goes on in this person's life, my opinion has no real power or no weight to that person's life. So I just choose to keep it to myself.
Yeah, I think Lil Baby spoke on that too. He was like, you sitting up here and just paying attention to my life, like go do something with your life. But that was big, like being a product of your environment. Can you elaborate more on how the Black community can get from out of the rat race and get from out of that trap, get from out of those negative friends around them? Like, they might support you this day, but the next day they got you doing negative stuff, some stuff they on, because they not ready to reach the next level yet. So what's some tips for that? Like, even just getting out of your own city, getting out of maybe even the country? Yeah.
I mean, you know, my first tip, you know, and it's hard to give a blanket statement over everything because, you know, things happen all the time. You know what I mean? I don't know every situation, but for those of you who are out there who are watching this right now, I would say, number one, you know, there's a difference between cutting people off and distancing yourself. You know, so what I would recommend is go through your phone and ask yourself who's making withdrawals and deposits into my life. And if they're making constant withdrawals where I'm always getting in trouble, I'm always dealing with the police, I'm always fighting, I'm always trying to, you know, stick up for this person, then this is a person I need to distance myself or cut off completely. And if they're making deposits, this is a person I need to be more around more, and I need to have more conversations with them. And these are things that a lot of young people don't really understand yet. But also the second thing I would say is you got to have integrity. You got to be willing to know that you're going to be different when you start doing things that the rest of the people aren't doing. And I always tell people, go against the grain. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When everybody else doing some dumb shit, you got to be the person that says, all right, look, I know that they're doing something dumb, and I'm confident enough to stay true to who I am so I don't get in the trouble that they go get in. Because, you know, you can get in trouble just by association, just by being around, wrong place, wrong time. And that's kind of what I grew up around in Cleveland is like, you know, you might get caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you might be the one who's dead or got shot or the one that just got robbed. And, you know, situations happen like that. So for me, I just try to put myself in situations where my odds of that happening to me is just very, very unlikely. You know what I'm saying? Even though, you know, world goes how it goes. But I would just say to everybody that's out there, you know what I'm saying? Like, be confident, have integrity, you know, embrace your swag. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know I'm different. I'm one of one. So when you speak like that, people actually believe it, but you got to really walk it. You know what I'm saying? When you saying it, you got to really walk that. So, you know, when I walk in the room, eyes are on me because I really move like that. And that's the energy that I want to project. So, you know, that's kind of like a smaller portion of it. I would say the other thing too is, again, change what you're consuming. You got to be able to learn and be self-aware. You know, that was one thing that I had early on that I thought was a negative, that I was so self-aware. I was always in my head. I was always constantly thinking before I did something. But everybody else, it just seemed so smooth for them to transition into the next thing. When in reality, when I got older, I started realizing they were transitioning because they were controlled. The people that were around them persuaded their decision making. So it's not that you wanted to make that bad move. It's just that you got persuaded into it. You ain't have no confidence or no integrity. You ain't stand on nothing. So it was easy.
Your family and friends. So exactly. It's like it's more comfortable.
It's way more comfortable, and you just got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I'm cool with, like, if I got to be a loner, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Because I know I'm gonna get to where I want to get to. And if I got to cut off 5 bad friends to be the person I always wanted to be, you know, that's what I got to do. So you just got to change your perception of who be who you want to be in the future right now. Because the thing is you can't be who you want to be and who you are right now at the same time. So.
Definitely. What's some ways that you can continue to keep up with the trends as far as for your clothing line? Because now you see the baggy clothes kind of coming back a little bit.
Absolutely.
The flare pants, the what's the hoodies where it's kind of crop. What is it called?
Crop hoodies?
No, not the crop hoodies. It's called like when they distress it.
Oh, distress hoodies, yeah.
You know, the distress hoodies and the heavy hoodies are in. Mm-hmm. So how do you just stay with the trends and not go too far in the trend, but still keeping like that uniqueness with your brand?
I would say like first step for like a clothing brand owner is like follow 100 clothing brand owners and see how they maneuver. Because there's going to be certain things, like certain seasons, some people go against the grain. And then also certain seasons, we got to also remember that people are in certain parts of the United States. So if they're on the West Coast, their theme is going to constantly be the same because they're not tending to the person on the East Coast as much. However, there's different brands that operate differently, right? But I would say is just follow 100 business owners. And when you see somebody jump on the next trend, create a unique way to go about that trend, but market it differently. And when you kind of start going about it that way, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to start catching on to things a little bit quicker. And then also kind of just look in stores. When you go inside of like, let's say Zara or something like that, look and see what collection is in season right now. See what they're selling. Not Zara in specific, but let's say like American Eagle or like Aeropostale or, H&M or Gucci or Nike. Nike, great example. Walk in and see what they're actually selling right now. And that's kind of how you can get an idea of what trends are going on right now, and then also see what celebrities are wearing. A lot of people are bringing the flare pants back. So if you've seen that 2 months ago, you would have been able to jump in, take advantage of the wave, and then right now you should already be focused on shorts and shirts. So as you're focusing on shorts and shirts, for me, I'm thinking next season. So I got to think tracksuits, jogging suits. After that, I'm always consistently super ahead. So now I'm thinking puffer coats. I'm thinking, what type of hat, what kind of style things can I switch up? Like even with this is a one-of-one custom piece where it's like I'm just testing something out to see if it hit. And, my audience like it. And then that's when you drop it. So, really just keeping an eye out, but, just trying to stay unique at the same time.
Definitely. One thing I noticed about your page, you're huge on content creation. 2,000 posts. Mm-hmm. Did you start off like posting all that like yourself, or did you have a social media manager?
Yeah, no, I started everything on myself. Okay. I still don't have a social media manager.
So that'd be you posting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day?
Yeah, that's all me. I like to keep my page like as organic and as unique as possible. And when I know that I'm one of one, and there's not really a lot of people talking about the stuff that I talk about, or, what I've realized is that there's certain things that only I can say and only I can do. So with that, I think that when I create content and when I post content, it's based off of where I am mentally in that specific moment. And I think that's unique because a lot of people have a social media manager and you may want to post something specifically, but they're controlling the management of the social media. So now it's like you don't really even get a chance to post what you really want to post. So for me, I just like to, just post what I want to post and post what I think is going to help people in that moment, especially whatever is going to help me. Because a lot of the times when I'm posting stuff, it's to inform people, it's to inspire people, it's to motivate people, but it's also to help me internally realize all the capabilities and things that I'm actually doing myself. So, I post all that stuff myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's some marketing strategies that's important when it comes to social media, whether it's quality, fonts, or getting straight to the point, the 7-second rule? That's where it's the first 7 seconds, grab their attention, then tell a story, make them feel like kind of comfortable, exercise their mind, and then reel it all in, like for a typical video to get them attracted. So what's some marketing strategies that you might use to keep people engaged?
I would say you got to really understand your audience and who you're trying to attract. Obviously those things are very important. First 3 to 5 seconds, whatever you say is extremely important to catch people's attention. I say this all the time, teenagers, people in the world right now, just everybody in the world, our attention spans is smaller than a squirrel. So instantly you can get turned off by just one thing or by how you look or by how you dress. So make sure those things are up to par. However, I would say that, my biggest marketing tips will really come from understanding your audience and who you're trying to attract. For me, I do a lot of storytelling because I'm a person of influence. I'm not an influencer. I'm a person of influence. So those are two different things. An influencer can get a lot of likes at any moment, but a person of influence can influence a lot of people and change people's lives. So I like to categorize myself as that. And also shout out to Keys, a thought leader, you know, being able to think for myself and being able to articulate myself in ways where people can still understand me, but the message is getting across so much better than the majority. So I would say when it comes to marketing, you know, obviously those things are important, you know, make sure you have great quality content, but also, you know, as long as you got access to a phone and internet, you know, you can make some great things happen. So you just got to be willing to get in front of the camera. Before you start thinking about marketing, I would say thinking about action taking, you know what I'm saying? Like, start taking action right now. If you really want to be an influencer or a singer or a piano player or whatever it is, take out your phone, sit it down, set it up, and start going. You know what I mean? And just keep posting consistently. Because the thing is that the difference between a person who's rich and wealthy is the person who's wealthy is thinking about consistency over a long period of time. The person who's rich right now, exactly, compounding interest. And that's another concept that a lot of people don't understand is investing enough time over a long period of time, investing enough of action taking over a long enough period of time will eventually get you to where you're trying to get to. But, you know, it never comes overnight, even though, you know, the success that I have, I always knew I would get here, but it didn't come overnight. And it wasn't something that was fast or easy or something that, you know, there's certain events that have happened in my life that I wish never happened, but I'm actually grateful for it because it made me who I am. And now with me being who I am, I can do a lot more with myself and for other people. You know, based off those decisions I made. So, you know, marketing, I think a lot of people focus a lot on marketing, and I think they should really be focused on action taking. You know, you got to really read content too. Like when you post something, are you looking at how many people are saving and sharing? Because those are the most important analytics you need to be paying attention to. Because the algorithms on these pages, like people don't understand how social media works. They want you on social media as long as possible. So if you're not catching somebody's attention and keeping them locked in over a long period of time, then this is why your posts aren't getting any engagement. So this is why people who just post a quote and they're not really relating to nothing, this is why their quotes only get a couple likes. As opposed to a person who speaks on a topic that's going on, like that's trending right now in the first 3 to 5 seconds actually catches somebody. So John Morant, oh my God, he just did X, Y, and Z. First 3 to 5 seconds, you caught somebody's attention. They already know about the story because it's trending. Now you give your opinion on it. And then you ask other people for their thoughts and what they think, and then they drop it in the comments. And then as they comment more, you know, the algorithm pushes you more. But you got to really understand social media, and like their goal is to control you mentally. So they want you on there as long as possible.
That's true. You mentioned 19 Keys. I was watching one of his interviews, and he was talking about how when this generation, we're the generation that got the most information, but we don't think for ourselves.
Absolutely.
We like chat GPT, what is it, GPT?
Yeah.
That's literally AI. Like you can, hey, write me a proposal for a business strategy on this, and it gives you full detail. You don't have to think at all. They just did it for you.
Yeah.
And you just keep tweaking your questions to get it. But I just thought it was interesting that he said that because it kind of resonated. I'm like, yeah, like anything growing up in school, I had Google.
Yeah.
I had Quizlet. I had Socratic, different avenues to get the work done. And it's like, our generation don't really think for themselves.
Yeah.
So how big is that to get in the habit of thinking for yourself and moving how you think, just being consciously aware of how you react to certain things, not letting just this person influence your decision and throw you off your schedule?
Yeah. I mean, I think being a person who can think for themselves is the most important thing. That's your job. You know, everybody has a business, but your real business is controlling what you do and you know, how you move in life and who you impact. So I think for real, you know, it's hard to tell people to think for themselves because it's so easy to get influenced. But when you're a person who thinks for themselves, you got to also think about what things are true to you. And there's only certain things that are true to me. And, you know, I can relate to other people on certain things, but that might not be true to me. That might not be what I stand on. And that might not be a part of my code. So, you know, I stand on those things and I understand those things, but also embracing them early on, younger, is important. But even if you know, whatever age you are right now, you know, it's important to at least be self-aware of what your code is. What do you stand on? You know what I mean? And then also, you know, just, it's easy to get influenced. So think about it like this. The top 1% control the other 99%. And the reason the top 1% are in the top 1%, whether it was handed down to them or something like that, is because they did something that you never did. So you have to be willing to do things that you've never done to become a person that you want to become. And I think that's just important insight that every person needs to have. But until people start learning how to think for themselves and actually rewire and relearn and unlearn certain stuff, it's going to be a long, long, long journey for people to get to where they're trying to get to. Not saying it's impossible, but you're going to bump your head so many times where you could have avoided it. And what I've realized too is that, you know, God has a funny way of making you trip up a bunch of times so you learn your lesson. So until you actually take the lesson in the beginning for what it is and move on past it, you know, you're just going to keep bumping your head over and over again.
Definitely. Going back to Limitless Investments, it's a Discord.
Yep.
How much is it to join, and what are people getting from it, and how can the members actually build wealth?
Absolutely. So it's $60 a month. The reason I have it at $60 a month is because when we had it for free, people weren't utilizing it. And what I've realized is that I can give you all the game for free, you know what I mean? And the moment somebody pays for it, that's when they really lock in, especially if it's amount of money.
I paid for this, I better I'm gonna get my money's worth.
Yeah, you see that, but that's the mentality of it. When in reality, when the information's out there and it's free, you should really be embracing the free information. And then when you pay for information, you just got to know that there's going to be bits and parts and little gems that you needed out of that paid for information. Because I've paid for tons of courses. I've paid upwards of $5,000-$6,000 for a course, $15,000 for mentorship, just to go to an event for 2 days, just to get in the room, $5,000. So I understand the value of trading my money for information because I know that information is going to be the most important thing out there. So for me, you know, my members understand this, and the way a person could build wealth by being inside of Limitless is really by not only changing their environment and thinking how other people are thinking that are in there who want more for themselves, and just listening to different things and going to these types of classes that are actually impacting you in life. Like, it's crazy that you can go to college and there's an art section, right, of college that you can go to school for. But the crazy part is you're not going to make 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, or $100,000 a year doing art unless you're like Picasso. Exactly. So, you know, that's important insight that people should have. But really, you know, coming in there, doing the classes, whether it's sports betting, you know, I'm very into sports betting. You know what I'm saying? People have their own opinions of it, you know, to each their own. But
my friend wanted me to get into it. He asked me last week, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get around to it next week. And then he hopped on me again this week. He was like, ooh, what's up? I'm like,
yeah. I mean, it's all risk management. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, trading, same thing, trading stocks. You know, we teach you how to do that, read charts. We teach you the basics. We teach you all that. You know, same thing with a clothing brand. All of it, in reality, all these investing avenues, and I think every person on here, you know, regardless of age, you should be learning about asset classes. You know, what time of the year does stocks normally go up? When do they normally go down? So when they go down, you know when to invest, and when they go up, you know when to sell. Because you always want to buy low, sell high. Same thing with real estate. Different seasons, real estate is down, real estate is up. So you got to know when to buy, when to sell. So these are core concepts that are pretty much foundational pieces of information that every person needs to know. But the more a person learns how risk management works, like I'm willing to risk $1 to make $4, and I'm willing to do that. If I have $5, I'm only willing to risk $3 total because I know if I go more than 50%, then now I have less to work with. So, you know, just understanding money too is it's a big thing, but it takes time. I would say read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You know, that's a really good book. Think and Grow Rich. You know, another good book is the Richest Man in Babylon. You know, there's so many books, bro. The Psychology of Money. There's so many books that I read on a constant basis that, you know, I've been able to put myself in the top 1% of all ages because I think differently, and the way I think differently is by consuming information from people who are in the top 1%. So, for example, why would I learn from my parents how to make $1 million when my parents never made $1 million? But yet, because they're such influential people in our lives and because they're so impactful, because they raised us, we think that everything they think and say is correct when in reality it's not. And I learned that younger when I was in school. Like, this teacher may be saying one thing, but why is it like this? Like, why would I focus on saving my money when they're printing money every day? Like, that doesn't make sense. Oh, I forgot you're making $40,000, $50,000 a year, so I really can't listen to you. Don't be ignorant and don't be disrespectful, but I also understand that I would not trade lives with you. So that's not where I want to be in the future. So I have to understand that there's a couple things I'm going to learn from you, and there's a couple things that I'm not going to learn from you. And then you got to unlearn those.
A lot of adults take that with kind of offended by that too. Like, oh, listen to your elders, but a lot of the elders in the same positions.
Yeah.
My grandma is just like his grandma. He's from a whole different state. Mm-hmm. Same thing with our parents. Worked hard, everybody kind of just, well, not everybody, but majority of people around grew up the same, kind of think the same. But since you touched on the stocks, what's your opinion just on the future of online trading, the cryptocurrency, the whole virtual world, metaverse?
I think it's constantly growing. We are more engaged as a generation in the online space more than ever. And, I watch a lot of what Elon says. I'm a huge investor in Tesla. I have 2 Teslas right now. So, for me, I'm constantly thinking future. And that's what we're all thinking now because you have no choice but to. You think of times where TV came around, but before that was the radio. And then before the radio, there was the newspaper. And then before the newspaper, there was, word of mouth and all those other things. Yeah, so, you just got to really embrace what's going to happen in the future. You don't know what's going to happen, but you got to be willing to go get information to understand what you're going to do to provide for you and yours. Because me as a man, I'm not worried about what everybody else is about to do. I'm worried about my plan and how I'm about to execute it. And then when I execute it, what I'm going to do with the bag after I get it. And then once I get that bag, for me, anytime I touch money, I try to flip it 4 times before I spend it on myself. And that's just been a concept that I've had since I was 18. So it's never a time where I'm about to go kick it. Like even when I was 18, 19, I couldn't go kick it. I had a kid. So it was like the only thing I could do was run up a bag and then spend it on V-Bucks on Fortnite because I was like stuck in the house and there was nothing else I could do. And I got a newborn right here sleeping. Like that was my way of coping with what I had going on. So, it's really just different for everybody.
On the timeline, that was what, 2019?
2018, 2019.
Okay. So you telling me when you got your first big bag or your first huge gain, you didn't splurge a little bit?
I'm gonna be honest with you, right? When I turned 20, I had $100,000 in the bank, like liquid. And I also had like an investment portfolio as well. So I think it had like 25,000 earning so my net worth was like more than 6 figures. And I'm 20. So now I'm also living in Cleveland. So it's gonna be different for different people. I grew up in a city where jealousy and envy was prominent. So I couldn't go buy a car that I really like. I couldn't go, even the jewelry I have now, because I'm in Atlanta and I live in a gated community and I'm out the way up north. Now I can do certain things, drive certain cars, get certain stuff now. And I can flex a little bit more.
A lot of people out here that's on the same time.
Exactly. Like I'm not, one thing I realized when I was in Cleveland is that I was a whale. By the time I turned 21, I was a whale in my city compared to most other people because the amount of money I was making per month put me in a completely different category of earners in my state and in my city. So for me, I couldn't go do those things. However, having 6 figures in the bank, obviously, I was like, I'm loaded. But then again, I was always comparing myself because I had friends who were making more than me. So when I had 100,000, I'm also friends with a person who's 5-6 years older than me who has $1 million in the bank. So now I'm like, is 100,000 even really a lot of money? And then I start viewing it differently. And then, of course, I bought, I think the main thing I ever bought, I had never really had designer as I was growing up. Like my dad would buy me polo and stuff like that. Yeah. But real designer, I never had it. I never had like a whole bunch of shoes and stuff like that. As opposed like when I was in high school, I started flipping shoes. So that was the only time I really had it. But like as I got older, I didn't really have a lot of really nice stuff. So I did get myself a couple things. Like I got like 2 Louis belts and I would eat out whenever I wanted to. And that was my way of like spending money on myself. But more importantly, what I realized was not the money that I could spend on myself, but the time that I get back for myself. I didn't have to wake up at the same time everybody else did. I went from working at Abercrombie & Fitch to working at a factory to, working inside a Sam's Club, selling DirecTV, making commissions to selling cars. And then, that's when I took my do-rag business seriously. So, I would be dishonest if I said I didn't splurge just a little bit, but my splurge is completely different from another person's splurge. There's a difference between you having 10,000 or not even 10,000 because 10,000, you're in the top 10% of the world right now if you have $10,000 saved. But if you have, let's say $3,500, the moment you spend $1,000, you have just literally spent 25% or more of your current net worth. So I don't believe in doing stuff like that unless it's towards an investment. The only time I spend money like that is, like for me, I'm willing to go broke investing. I'm not willing to go broke buying stuff to flex for people who never really cared in the first place. Because at the end of the day, people say what they want to say, but at the end of the day, you ain't gonna be around when I'm dead. You know what I'm saying? At my funeral, you know what I'm saying? You're not gonna be there hugging my mom and making sure she cool. You know what I'm saying? And also it's like, your words really don't impact me at all. And what you think of me really don't impact me because I think for myself. So, how I present myself, how I move, how I talk, that's all dependent on me and no other person's gonna change that. So that's just kind of like my mentality. But when it comes to money, I do believe young people should spend a little bit of money on themselves, because when I bought this chain and I bought this watch, I spent like well over 50,000, right? And I was like, I didn't really flinch when I spent the money. And I started thinking to myself, after I bought it, like there was a high for like 3 hours.
Like,
And I'm like, yeah, this shit icy. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I got the, I turned on some rap songs and I was like, you got the bust down on and they talking about it. And I'm like, yeah, I got that shit on. And then, that fulfilled my inner kid. But, I think too, like, you get to a point where you start getting all that stuff and then you mature. And then it's just like, okay, it's just a watch. It's just a chain. Like, if I didn't have this, who would I be? And I think a lot of people they think that this makes them. This doesn't make me. You know what I'm saying? So I think because I am who I am, that's why I attracted these things. These were like hood dreams. You know what I'm saying? Like growing up, 142nd and Kinsman and being outside all the time. The only people I seen with chains and jewelry and stuff were people who were scamming, dope dealers, doing stuff that they're not supposed to be doing. So I thought that was the only way you could get it. Or you had to be an NBA player, you had to be an NFL player, you got to be blessed in some sort of way. And I grew up, I'm like, damn, I'm not none of these things. I'm not even real smart. I'm barely even passing, And then I was like, you know what, that shit don't even matter, bro. Like these grades was made by them. They wanted to control me. And as I started thinking like that and I grew up, I'm like, man, fuck all this shit. I really don't care what nobody think. What does my family think of me? And then that's when I start standing on something that's bigger than me.
So what you think this school system is going to go to? A lot of things turning virtually, online, and I think a lot of people are waking up, like, not going to college. They're like, man, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to just make my own money. I don't need college to get rich. I don't need college to be successful. And then a lot of people are realizing how messed up the scale is. Like you said, in school, if you wrong half of the time, you're failing, you're a poor.
Yeah.
You have to be right 9 out of 10 times to be excellent, 8 out of 10 times to be good. And it's like, in the real world, you really just got to go viral once.
Yeah.
You really just got to get the huge gain once and then just multiply off it and grow from it. So what's your take on, like, the school system and how right now they're teaching us stuff about 10 years ago, but they should be teaching us about the metaverse or the future in general.
Yeah.
Because 10 years from now, that's when we're going to learn about it, but then it's going to be too late. We're not going to be able to make no money on it.
I love this topic because, like, I can go so in-depth on it because I've experienced it. So this might be a little bit of a longer segment. I'm going to let y'all know that, but it's going to be very impactful, so I'm going to say that now.
Take nugs.
Yeah, take them now. The number one thing that I think is that the education system has been fucked for a little minute now. Even when I was in school, I was always like hard-headed, but it wasn't that I was hard-headed. It was the fact that I was thinking bigger than they were. And when you're learning from people who have small brains, but you have crazy dreams, the problem with the school system is if you're young, you're a dreamer. And then they like, you have all these dreams. Like my daughter now, she's 5. She wants to be a superstar. She wants to be a singer. She wants to do all those things. And I tell her, you are capable of doing anything you say you can do. And the problem is when you go in school, they tell you that that's wrong because of X, Y, and Z and 1, 2, 3, because the real foundation of it is you didn't do it for yourself. So this is why you don't believe it's possible for me. And I respect that, but don't put that on me. Don't put your expectations on me. So my personal opinion on the education system is, yes, it is getting a lot harder for people to realize, like, or it's getting a lot easier for people to realize that I don't want to go to college. Why would I take in $60,000 of debt when there's no guarantee that I'll get a job? 46% of people who go to college end up dropping out the first year. Out of the people who actually graduate, only 37% of those people actually get a job in that field that they actually graduated in.
Another small percentage of who making $100,000.
It's extremely small percentage. And, women saying I want a man who's 6 foot and makes 150, that's a completely different concept and topic right there. But to get back on what I was saying is like, the education system, we have to start teaching people how to do real crafts and get real skill sets, which is why trades should be a bigger thing now. Because you can go to trade school for 2 years, 4 years, come out and instantly make $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year, work your way up, and then be a person who's making $200,000 a year. And when you're making $200,000 a year, you are now a part of the top 15% in the entire world. And a lot of people aren't thinking like that because they're so influenced by social media. This person has a business and they have a bin, so I have to do the same thing as them. And now it's like nobody starts to think for themselves, and the information that we get from school doesn't allow us to actually create more opportunity for ourselves. So in my personal opinion, I do think that they should be teaching us AI right now. I'm studying it right now. And, I'm doing core things within my business with AI now when it comes to marketing, when it comes to emails, customer support. I'm actually integrating all of these things now because I've realized that, think about it like this. If you're easily replaceable, then there's going to be no hesitation with letting you go, right? So for example, if I had a Burger King, or not even a Burger King, let's say an Applebee's, and I have a worker, let's say Joe Schmo from off the street worked at my Applebee's and he's a waiter, okay? And that waiter gets paid $6 an hour plus commission. Well, guess what? That waiter has real life issues. When they late, that's a problem for my business. When they get smart with my customers, that's a bad look on my business. Complain, it's a death in the family. I can't come to work. So now what happens is humans have all of these different situations in real life because we're human, we have flesh and we one day die, right? But what happens is when you can create a robot for 40, 50,000 one time and you can pay for it one time and all you gotta do is pay for it to get engineered, now that waiter gets replaced by a robot that works at command to the person who owns it.
Perfect.
And now what happens is now that field, that whole entire space, factory workers, you know what I'm saying? Same thing. I can get a robot to replace every single person in the assembly line. So now everything changes in how you think, even with creators now. You can go to Midjourney AI right now and get a design that's better than 99% of people in the world could possibly even come up with. You can get it made within 30 seconds just by typing in a prompt. And you can see millions of other people using the same thing. So the opportunity is there. Is it going to break certain fields where there's jobs right now? Is it going to crush certain people? Absolutely. But the opportunity it's going to bring is immense, but you got to be willing to go learn. You got to be able to look at this and if I was y'all right now, right? And you're watching this video and you man, I really want to get to the next level. Don't be like me. I always tell people, don't be like me because I make a ton of mistakes every single day. I take pride in my mistakes and I like to be honest about that. So don't be like me. Don't look at me and be like me. Be the best version of yourself. Now understand what that looks like. All right, I'm very informative. I'm very, I'm a big risk taker and all these things, whatever attributes you want to have. Go do those things right now. Go get the information right now. Go take that risk right now. Go start that business right now. Go come up with that concept earlier. Go get the information faster. And the moment you start doing that, you're going to see a quicker and better outcome for you in the near future because it really only takes you. I mean, if you stick to your script for about 6 months, you could change your life if you're really true to it. And that's something I just fully believe. So the education system, I pray that they change it. They're going to have to though, because there's robots now where you can type in, the questions of your homework and it'll write it out for you. So they have to find a way instead of teaching us how to we always say this, people buy a drill to put the hole in the wall, right? When in reality, they want you to learn actually let me give it to you better like this. A car, like a mechanic, right? The mechanic teaches you how to use the wrench to get to the engine and focus on certain parts of the engine, right?
Right.
And that's how you relate the wrench to the engine, right? Instead, why don't you just teach me how the engine works and teach me how to take apart the entire engine? And now I know where to use the wrench. And now I'm not using the tool, or it's a different concept of thinking when you break something down from the get-go, when you you do reverse psychology on it and you really break it down from the beginning of where it is now and work your way backwards. It's a lot different to actually do that and understand that component, and it makes you smarter because now you're using a tool and you know where to use the tool and what it's for, not just about the tool and what it does. And that one core concept, I've heard Elon Musk talk about it. His kids don't go to normal school. They don't even do grades. There is no grade system. So when you go in there, everybody's the same grade. Everybody's learning the same things. And they don't learn the stuff from the past. They learn the stuff about the future. Because why am I teaching you things? Obviously, it's important to know your history and who's on the dollar bill and all those things. But when you think about it, the dollar is not even backed by anything. So that shit could fall apart any moment. So that's why you get you some assets. You know what I'm saying? Get you a building, get you some stocks, get you some bonds, you know what I'm saying? Get you some gold, get you a Rolex. Rolex has appreciated more than any other asset class right now within the last 2 years. So, I buy a bus now and obviously it's not worth as much, but when you look at plain Janes, they definitely hold their value. So
would you get into collectibles, watches?
Oh yeah, I'm already on it now. Yeah. So, I bought a watch case from Amazon and I was like, you know what? For me, I'm all about manifesting. If any young person or older person wanted to really change their life, you got to really speak this shit into existence.
And it works.
It does.
It does work.
Yeah, that's how I got to where I am. So I bought a watch box just for collecting. And, obviously I'm there's other things that I want to invest in right now that are more important to me, but I know that this box is damn near empty right now. So I'm looking at it all right, I need a Submariner, I need a Batman there, I need a Presidential right there, I need a Richard Mille right there, and I need an AP. I need 2 APs now.
Audemars.
So, yeah, so that's how I'm thinking now. And, it's not from a standpoint of to show off. It's from a standpoint of this is really something that holds value. And when the dollar falls, I want my money to be in something that I can sell it for the next currency.
And pass down.
Absolutely.
As we wrapping up, can you just share any personal habits, any personal routines that helped you grow as a business owner and just helped you stay focused, like starting out and then you came to a certain point, continuing?
A couple habits that I have is like I read. I try to read daily. I'm not perfect though, so I like to be honest about that as well. It's like I try to read every day. Sometimes I might go a couple weeks without reading. That's the good part about being human is that you're not a robot. You're not going to do it every single day strategically, even though it might help you. It's also good to know that like it's good to live life a little bit too. So I try to read a chapter a day. I work out 3 to 5 times a week. Now that's something that I stay true to because getting the time to be with yourself and to work on your physique and your physical and your mental at the same time is extremely important, and that's what keeps you whole. Also, on top of that, I consume a lot of video content. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I watch people who I want to be like. I watch a lot of Elon Musk interviews. I watch a lot of Rick Ross interviews, Nipsey Hussle interviews, Dame Dash interviews, Will Smith interviews, Kevin Hart interviews. Like, I watch these interviews so much because I've realized that they've unlocked a portion of their brain that I don't have yet. They tell people all the time that we only use 3 to 9, or 3% of our brain or something like that, some crazy number. And I'm like, man, like the true way to greatness is by.
Yo, what's the deal, y'all? It's the Interview Podcast here, and I hope you enjoyed that 45-minute video of Dontez Akram. That was a very good interview and very good tips. I hope you took notes and took a nug. And I wanted to let you know that there will be bonus footage releasing, pardon me, about 2 to 3 videos of extra footage, uncut audio, and behind-the-scenes footage from the actual interview. So make sure you go watch that. Make sure you subscribe to the interview, subscribe to Dontez channels, and make sure you tap in and share this video. See y'all.